Welcome to the Challenger Podcast. I'm Dave Glaser in Denver, Colorado. Today's episode is one of my favorites I've ever recorded. Gail Evans is a big fan of astrology, and she joins me today on the podcast to kind of show us how to layer the Enneagram with our astrology signs and our chart. So what Gail and I chose to do is actually jump on Facebook Live and Instagram Live a couple of weeks back and actually host a live event for our audience members in a one-of-a-kind live event on Instagram and Facebook where we asked each other questions. We dig into her 2-wing 3 personality and my 8-wing 7 with a sexual subtype as we layer that with our astrology signs as well. So I didn't know much about my astrology chart, but apparently my sun is a Cancer, my moon is a Leo, and the third one is Aquarius, which gives me a whole new perspective and dimension of self-awareness. So if you have a good time listening to today's episode, Gail and I are actually going to team up and host a webinar in the near future where we're going to go into your astrology charts and your Enneagram personality type and do this process with you all live via webinars. So if you're interested in getting a little bit more self-awareness through your astrology chart and your Enneagram type, click the link below in our show notes and we'll get you signed up absolutely free. That event is happening soon, so don't miss out. As always, if you get a ton of value out of today's conversation, please share it with one person that you believe would have a good time, laugh a little bit, and dig a little bit deeper into their own self-awareness. So share this episode with them today. While we're at it, I have a huge ask of you. Please head on over to Spotify, iTunes, or wherever it is that you listen to this podcast and give us a 5-star rating and a written review. It really goes a long way to help us get the message of the podcast out to more people. Without further delay, let's get into today's live episode with Gail Evans.
Hello everyone on Instagram. I'm here today with Dave Glaser from the Challenger podcast. We're going to be talking about astrology and the Enneagram, which Dave's very into, and he can help me because I still am not totally up to speed on the Enneagram. I have read little bits. Hi Natalie. So we're on Facebook Live and we're also on Instagram Live. Dave, I don't know whether you just need to find me probably on Instagram.
Yeah. Let me see what's happening here on Insta. You know, I need to look into this simulcast thing because you're crushing my you're crushing my technology expertise.
That's okay. It's a bit weird going live on 2 platforms. I'm not completely comfortable with it myself. Okay.
All right.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with you. Did you discover whether or not you were a helper or an achiever on the Enneagram?
Yeah, I still think I'm a 2. I still see the helper thing. But the achiever thing, like we talked about this before, like I really resonate with the achiever when it comes down to my work self. Like, you know, let's say the helper part of me kind of vanishes for a little bit, and I'm a bit more forceful when I'm coaching. Like, you know, so my clients would absolutely say, you know, that I have that, and I think I said that before, that kind of Scottish thing where I'm a little bit blunt, whereas when I'm in my helper position, I'm probably not doing that, you know, because I guess the helper doesn't want to be too blunt because then they're not being helpful and they're not fitting in, you know. So I would still say that, but I do maybe see, and I don't know whether you would agree with me, that perhaps the wing on the Enneagram is a kind of evolution, because that's how I saw it when we were going through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an additional way to look at yourself, and what I hear you sharing is actually a tendency of the helper.
Okay.
Let's just say like you're working with a group of clients or a particular client for a long period of time, and the growth and the changes just aren't happening. You know, you're both feeling a little bit stuck.
Okay.
And the helper has a tendency to personalize and internalize that. Okay. And so there's a little bit of like angst or resentment that builds up subconsciously
Yeah.
So that's maybe what you're seeing from the helper perspective of when you're coaching people, when you're helping people, and they're just not getting it.
Yes.
How does that
I just
land?
like go for the jugular, a little bit of that. I mean, I'm still compassionate for sure.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that my clients would also say that, but I do feel like that 3 kind of comes in, and it's a little bit more like, okay, can we just how do we get around that bullshit thing that's sitting there, your victimization, or your anger, that if you're blaming everybody, like you're blaming your mother and it's now 20 years later, and you're still blaming her for this thing that happened when you were 10. And I do believe that that's necessary sometimes, because it's all too easy to be stuck in that position of blaming and shaming and feeling like a victim.
We are technically savvy as of right now. Hi, Desiree. Wanted to say hi.
Hello, everyone. I think, actually, do you know what? It's like we're drunk.
It's 10:15 here in the morning in Denver, and I kind of wish, it feels like summer. It feels like patio, take a break, just cut out of work kind of a day. It's gorgeous here. Let's go get a soda water and get drunk. You don't drink though, right?
No,
Me neither.
I don't need it. I just look like I'm drunk. You don't drink either. Oh, so funny. There you go. We don't even need alcohol, guys. We're just as we are. We're just as crazy as we are in the heat. There you go.
Right. Yeah, I love what you were saying earlier about the Enneagram showing up and the achiever coming in as an influence in your life, of like, come on, we got to keep the ball moving here. And I remember you're quite successful as a singer.
Yes.
And that would be the achiever showing up in your life as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I think when we spoke about that before, because I had to listen through, and I said to Dave, I was like, we talked about so many things on that last live stream. That was crazy. I don't know how we fitted that in, but obviously we both love to talk. But yeah, I do see that thing of, because I think you'd asked me at the time about, was I doing it, the singing thing, was that from like pride, or was that from like looking for love? And I guess for me, I recognize that loads of my language is about connection and community. And for me, it's that thing, like music is also that. It's like connection and community, and also being seen. Because I do think that all artists are, all creatives have this desire to be seen, and perhaps they weren't met fully as children in being seen. I do see that in a lot of, eclectic, artistic, creative types.
Yeah, I see that as well. And what I hear you describing is another layer to the Enneagram. We have your helper personality type with the achiever wing, and that's great to know. But what I hear about you describing in the connection is a subtype. There's 3. There's sexual, social, and self-preservation. And the sexual subtype is a lot like my own, where I crave one-to-one connection.
Okay, this is going somewhere that I didn't think it was going to go. Explain this to me. Okay,
yeah,
this is interesting.
Yeah, I'll describe it. I'll describe it from my world, and we'll see if it reflects and resonates with you.
Okay.
So I'm a challenger with an enthusiast wing, so an 8 wing 7. But my subtype is the sexual subtype, which means I crave one-to-one connection. So if I could just succinctly say how that shows up for me, is that I'm very intense about going after things that I love, and I have a fear of missing out on those things. So that encourages my subconscious to crave one-on-one connection.
Okay, but why is it sexual?
It's kind of a misleading subtype. The other way to say it is one-to-one, like sexual or one-to-one subtype. And the other 2 are very clear. The social subtype for the helper shows up as the hostess with the mostest.
Yeah. Yes. And have done that before. I was doing my own thing. I was very much like, I'm the person doing the thing for the other person who's the kind of, let's say, the star. And I would be like making sure everyone was okay and everyone was coming in and tickets would be sold and all of that kind of thing. That sort of, yeah. So I relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also that what you just said about the sexual subtype, I definitely relate to that. Absolutely. Like, oh yeah, like as soon as you said it, it was like, oh, that's me. Like there's something about that one-to-one connection that I'm not saying I don't get amazing connections with other people, but there's like a whole other level of myself that I can meet in that space.
Yeah.
Hopefully with the right person, obviously, you know, right kind of person.
Yeah, definitely resonates with me too. As the challenger, I really like a close-knit group of my power circle, you know. My circle of influence is really small, and I crave that one-to-one connection with all of them, whether that be individually or within our small group. So when I do men's work, the smaller the better.
Okay. Why is that for you? Like what does it feel like for you? Such a feminine question to ask.
No, I really appreciate that lens, because when we do men's work in a group, that helps us get into our feminine. So we can actually surrender more to the work, right? So to answer your direct question, I really appreciate it, is when the group gets too large, I have a hard time being vulnerable.
Okay. Yeah.
But when I have my small group of influence, my power circle, I can be very strong and vulnerable, and I can see it as a strength and not a weakness there.
Okay. Yeah, and then probably it's easier to lead in that place. Also.
I feel more empowered. Yeah, I feel more like my authentic self, and I can lead authentically in that. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because I do see that, I guess, in my courses with my clients. I like that thing of like we start to feel like a kind of family, you know, and everyone's like, oh, I love you. You know, there's all of that. So I can relate to that somewhat. I think it gets harder the bigger the crowds. It's like there's more distance. Some people like that. I don't particularly enjoy that. I like the depth. So even within my friends circle, if we're not going deep, then there's almost the question of what's the point? Like,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm just like, what are we talking about? We're talking about the television, you know, something on TV. Can't do that for long, you know, just for a while.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like, let's just talk about men for a second, right?
Yeah.
Where you find a group of guys getting together to watch a sporting event, right?
Yeah.
And it's very surface level when we do that. Like, oh yeah, we just scored, rah, rah, rah. We're cheering for our team.
High fives.
And that's really connecting for the masculine.
Yeah.
And then when you start to peel back the layers of your own self, you start to understand that that's not deep enough anymore. But here's the trick. The trick is to grow with that same group of men over time. So like, I'll give you an example. This came up in my life a couple weeks ago, where I was a part of a men's group for a year, and I was there to build better relationships with other men. And after a year, I got 2 really great friendships out of that group. And we met up for the Avalanche game 2 weeks ago on a Friday night. First time out in a bar in a year, right? And we were able to watch the game, cheer them on, and get deep at the table in conversation. So it was like, for my challenger with an enthusiast wing and my one-to-one sexual connection, I'm like, I'm good for another year. Like, that fills me up so much.
Yeah, I totally get that. I understand that. It's amazing. And also I think as well, like, sort of dipping into the astrology part, right? So for those of you who are like, oh, tell me about my astrology, we won't be able to do that today, but I will talk about Dave's astrology so that he can get into that today. You're like a Cancer sun. So, you know, as I said before, it's that Cancer is all about, it's the kind of mother energy. It's nurturing. It wants family connections, which means intimate connections, you know. And the flip side of it can also be kind of moody. It's highly
True that.
moody, right? But highly intuitive and really desires connection. And so even the way that you're describing that connection with the guys and the intimacy of that, and the fact that you're going deep with that, Cancer needs that. Like a Cancer person, they don't really get off on shallow either. They might play that game. They might go and try and play that game, but it doesn't do anything for them. Yeah. Right. As many people do, there's certain star signs who will try and play the game, especially, let's say, in relationships, of being casual. And there are some star signs that can do it, but there are other ones that really can't.
Right.
Cancer
the Cancer is not one of them.
No, Taurus is another one.
Okay.
Taurus can look really stubborn. Cancer is more moody, like, oh, I don't need you. You've pissed me off. I won't talk to you for 2 days, or a week. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're like describing my day today. Like I just met with my group of men and I was telling them a story about me being moody and like, okay, I'm gonna create distance because I'm so moody.
Oh, yeah. It's so common in a Cancerian.
Spot on.
Like the thing with the Cancerian, it's like, it's to learn to be like, allow your mood, because there's no point in trying to deny it, right? Like, we know that with all the work that we do, right? And anyone who's watching that knows that when you try to avoid the part of self, it just becomes bigger. So you don't avoid it. Right. But the difference would then be your ability to communicate what's going on for you. Like, so you could say, like, I'm a moody arsehole right now. And I can't speak. Like, I can't talk. Give me however long that you need. If it's a whole day, then as long as you say that, then you're in integrity and you don't feel so shit about that moodiness. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, 24 hours seems to be the maximum amount of time that you can take a break for being a moody little, what'd you call it? An arsehole?
Arsehole. Or asshole, however you want to say.
I love it. So great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's me to a T.
But so that's the thing with what you were saying about that connection and going deep. Like, there's certain types of people who just need that. Like, I have a Scorpio moon, right? Which is your moon sign, for those that don't know, is your first self. So you'll listen to, things about astrology and you'll look up things about your sun sign and you might relate to it or you might not. Like, I absolutely did not relate to a Capricorn sun, which I am, born 4th of January, right? I won't tell you the year, but anyway, so born the 4th of January, right? And I did not relate to that because Capricorn is like the father energy. So it's the opposite of the Cancer energy. It's all about, where are we going in life? How are we getting there? What are the steps that are required? And Capricorn will keep plodding, right? It's not like Aries, which will be like, okay, I'm going to get there and take all the shortcuts. Capricorn wants to do it properly, has to do all the steps, and get up the mountain, even if it takes 20 years. Mm-hmm. And it's all about business and, money. And I actually used to say I don't care about money. Like, I was the total opposite. So in my Scorpio moon, it was all about, I wanted the depth, right? I still want that because it's still part of me, right? So Scorpio moon, like all of the water signs, like Pisces, is the same. We want depth, we want connection in that way. And if we don't have that, then we're kind of happy to just leave it alone. Like, we won't even put ourselves in a situation where, okay, it's shallow and that will do. It will never, ever do. Never. So if you've got Pisces in your chart somewhere, or especially a moon sign, Cancer or Scorpio, you're not going to be able to do shallow connections in life in general, especially in intimacy. It just won't do.
Yeah, totally relate to that. Yeah.
I was just going to say, but obviously there's other parts in our chart. So sometimes we have a conflict, right? And so with Dave's chart, Dave's got a Leo moon, which is also super emotional, but in a different way. Mm-hmm. Right? Leo's path, like the path of a true Leo, is all about living from the heart, right? It's like where you put your heart on your sleeve and live from there. Don't hide that anymore. Don't become the cowardly lion who doesn't know that his courage is there all the time, right? Path of the Leo kind of is, that's like embracing your courage to live from the heart. And then the extreme that I've said to you before is like the narcissist who's like out there, like, just look at me, and trying to shine, but with no heart. So the path of the Leo is actually embracing the heart. So you have that, like, so that's you. So as a little boy, I'm absolutely sure you were a force to be reckoned with.
In what way? What do you mean?
In this sense, well, I mean, I guess if your Cancer was kind of there, even though it's your sun sign, and I'll explain more of that in a minute, but if your Cancer was more present, then Cancerians actually often struggle in large crowds, right? They kind of are introverted. Depending on your rising sign, you might get away with looking like an extrovert, but you're actually introverted, right? But a Leo, if you have a Leo moon, then let's just say perhaps if there's like a strong connection to that Leo energy, you'd want to be seen. You might still have an introverted part because you've got the Cancerian there, but you would want to be seen. So you would do things in order to be seen. The negative part of that could be, I'm not seen, so I'm going to go and set something alight, you know?
Got it. I'm going to blow it. I'm going to blow it up because I'm not feeling seen. And yes.
Yeah. So Leo actually desires to be seen, probably. I mean, all people desire to be seen. Let's say that. But Leo in itself has a requirement to be seen, because when it lives from the heart, it's supposed to inspire others to do the same. So that requires being seen, right? You can't just tell people to do it. You actually have to be it. So there's a lot of emotional stuff there, but your rising sign, the Aquarian, is very, very different. Very good.
Yeah, let's dig into that in a second, because I want to reflect back on how the Cancer and the Leo and my Enneagram Challenger personality type are all kind of just like they're encapsulating my whole self. So what I heard you say about the Leo is that they really do want to be seen, and the path to do that is to wear my heart on my sleeve. Did I hear you correctly? Yeah, which is the Challenger's biggest fear, but it is also the path to most growth, is to be seen, be vulnerable, and put myself out there, whether that be in a leadership role at work or a leadership role in a relationship, or just my true authentic self being out there. You're talking about my greatest fears, but also my greatest growth path along the way. Yes, very much so.
Yeah, because in order to really share your heart with a partner, with your family, right, with your friends, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And that, for many people, not just the Leo moon, but for many people's difficult, And what you might find, particularly because your Aquarius rising, right, is the face of how you are seen, right? Aquarius is very different from Leo. Again, it's they kind of almost call it the alien, right? It's like, it's the analytical thinker, but it's also the visionary, like in a humanitarian kind of way. Like Aquarius really cares about how the planet is functioning. It's the technological advancement, it's that part that wants like the best. And when it's kind of striving for the best for humanity, it can't do close connection, right? So some astrologers will say that rising sign is like your mask. So it's the mask that you wear. It is that, but I kind of find that that's also a little bit debilitating. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's like the ego, right? And it is, right? So let me backtrack a little bit. So how I would say this is, your moon sign is your emotional self, your first self, which relates to the inner child and also your feminine energy, all of your feeling, your intuition, your creativity. So the more you can tap into that Leo creativity, shining, however that wants to be seen, and live from the heart, your emotional self will feel more at peace, right? But your rising sign, your Aquarius rising, is the part of you that's supposed to take that inner child by the hand to help you become more Cancerian.
Okay.
Right? Which is close connections. So the irony is actually you're being asked as an Aquarius rising to spread yourself out into the world in order to then generate close connections, right? To become more humanitarian in order to bring that into your own environment, right? But because all star signs have a positive and negative reflection, and if you think about it as ego, right? Because I kind of look at the rising sign like it's your teenage ego that hasn't fully developed yet. That's actually where your journey's at. You're becoming more Cancerian, but your journey's within the rising sign, right?
Okay.
So if you were to look at the positives and negatives of Aquarius, the positives would be that the humanitarian, they're going out in the world, they're caring about the people on the planet, the advancements and all of that, consciousness, right? Absolutely. But the negatives would be disconnection. So your battle would then be allowing that Leo heart to come out with the Aquarius, like, no. We need to stay far back from people. We need to, be logical, because it's all about the intellect and the thinking. And so the path for you as Aquarius rising is actually to release yourself from overthinking and trying to process emotion through thinking. That's your alarm. That means your alarm going off in the background.
It's like perfect timing that an ambulance would roll by to like get me to wake up, right? I really like that explanation, and I have a tendency to like fight for the underdog and root for the I like to champion for the little guy, right? And in my business, I see this in your reflection today, is that my purpose is to share the benefits of fitness and nutrition and personal growth for mental health. And I want to do that on a global scale. But what happens for me is that I lose connection to my one-on-one clients when I try to do that. So I hear my growth path in there, like spot on. It's crazy cool. Hi, Amber. I want to give a shout out to Amber. Amber Kiera is a phenomenal person, and I just want to welcome her to the chat.
Hello, Amber. Hi, everyone on Facebook as well. Hello, Mesa. And whether who's still here. Let me know who's here. We're on StreamYard, so I might not be able to see your name. For some reason, it shows some people's and it doesn't show everybody's. We're talking about astrology and the Enneagram and how they relate.
Right.
We've just been going through Dave's astrology.
My chart.
It's super interesting. Yeah, like to me, looking at this stuff really helps you to navigate yourself. It's like, oh, that's why I do that. So instead of, and especially with other people, actually, instead of looking at other people and going, why are they doing that? I would never do that. When you then go, oh, they're Taurus, that's why they do that.
And I love to expand on that too, because I think that that's what helped me start the podcast in the first place. Is like I was struggling in relationships with other people. Okay. Whether that be a friendship, a work relationship, or a romantic relationship. And I really wanted to uncover why I was seeing so much conflict internally here and then with others too. So that's a really good point of understanding myself to understand others. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, even in you saying that, you can see the Aquarian reflection, right? You can, right? But it's not like a bad thing. Because it's like that's your path. So when you look at it and you go, oh, that's my path, then you can stop beating yourself up for not being the thing that everybody else or you think you're supposed to be. You can just say, well, that's what I'm here to reflect on. I can see some of my crew saying hi. Hello, Belma. Hi, Christoph.
Yeah, hello to everyone. I hope this conversation resonates with somebody like Amber who joined. If I remember correctly, she's also an achiever on the Enneagram.
Oh, it'd be interesting to know what her sun sign is. Does she know? Does she know any of
I don't know,
her?
Amber, if you're on Instagram still tuning in, go ahead and comment below your details so that Gail can talk a little bit more about the achiever Enneagram type and how the astrological chart will come into play here.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be fun. I love doing this live stuff and seeing familiar faces, and
it's so much fun. I love it. I don't see many people. There's people on Facebook, but not many people chatting. Please let us know who's here. Feel free to join in. Are you confused? You're so confused. Also, you might have joined midway through and be like, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah, like last time, we're covering a lot of information very, very quickly. So just raise your hand if you want us to slow down a little bit, and we'll kind of expand on one of these items.
Natalie just said, a good friend of mine and I figured out I'm a loyalist.
The 6. The 6.
Oh, it's the 6. Okay, because I don't know. Okay, explain this.
I just interviewed a podcast guest. Actually, the last 2 episodes are both the loyalist on the Enneagram, and what they love, what they're seeking is certainty. So they want to know the answers to the questions before the questions get asked. So
I'm laughing because I know Natalie.
Is that true? Is that spot on?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so.
And while we're talking about connections with other people, the loyalist has this very unique ability to bring people close to themselves so that they won't get hurt. So, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That is the 6, the loyalist to a T.
Natalie's like, no. Yeah.
Or yes, that explains everything.
Yeah, it's true. And do you know what, Natalie? I'm trying to remember because I've done an astrology session with Natalie, but I can't remember what you are right this moment. Oh, wait, hold on. On my course, it was funny. We had 2 people who had exactly the same moon sign, rising sign, and sun sign. It's never happened before. Natalie's one of them. So she's Gemini moon. I remember this because she was like, I don't want the Gemini moon.
Why wouldn't somebody want the Gemini moon?
So I think some of the star signs, let's say all the star signs have the negative reflections that we don't want. And there's some particular star signs that people just really don't want the negative parts of it. They think it's like terrible. So Gemini is the twins. And this means there can be constant debate within the self over and over and over of what the right thing is to do. And if somebody has wounded that person, then there's just the debate on what they're, not like kind of vindictive, but just like, just a constant chatter, like it doesn't let up. So instead of like trying to soothe one inner child, you've got twins.
Yeah.
So you have
a
little bit more work on your emotions if it's a moon sign. They like fun. They want to just play and have fun. They don't want to, they kind of don't want to become too serious. But the problem is that chatter can get them caught up in a loop. The chatter is annoying, says Natalie. Yes, it's very annoying. But it's okay.
Yeah, let me kind of challenge the Gemini, the Gemini a little bit, right? That's the one we were talking about, the twins.
Yeah.
And the Leo part of me is imagining that if I were to hurt that person's feelings, I would feel so terrible about it. And what would the Gemini be feeling if a Leo hurts them personally?
Gemini would, it depends. It can become victimized because it can go spinning round and round and round in their own thoughts. So let's say all of us have an inner critic, right? And we all can do that to ourselves when we go in a space where we're like, that person hates me, right? But the Gemini will do it in a kind of full forced conversation that goes on and on and on and spins out of control. So and especially with the Leo, right? If you're a Leo and you hurt me, then you've probably done it in a way that's like you're kind of, do you mean like the Leo and it's negative?
Well, that's why I asked, is because I'd love to expand a little bit more on this, because in relating or in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
if there's a Leo and a Gemini not talking about the hurt or the
I
conflict,
see. Okay.
then the Leo is almost like beating themselves up for hurting the other person, and the Gemini is taking on that victim role and
Yeah.
ruminating about the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they just get together and they connect and they talk, how would
Well, the
that
Gemini might go, you did this and you did that and you hurt me and it was like this and it was like that and you should have done this and you shouldn't have done that, and it would go on and on and on and on. And for the Leo person just wouldn't be able to do that for very long, you know. So if, I'm not saying they wouldn't be able to hold space, but they wouldn't be able to do that for very long, because that's like daggers going in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, yeah, like, you know, like if you imagine, I don't know why I've got that in my head. I forgot what it. What was there was a book and a movie where they went to like Lilliput, and there was like a big, you know, the guy's like a big giant, and then all the little people. Forgotten what it's called. Anyway, but basically they're all like firing at this giant. Now he just thinks he's a normal man, but to them he's this giant. So they're trying to kill him with these tiny little spears or something, right? And it would be kind of like that. It would be like a Leo would be able to take that, but then they would get to a point where they just would zone out of it or walk away from it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because for the Leo, it's like the Leo wants to live from the heart, and Gemini is a little bit wrapped up. It's an air sign, so it's a little bit wrapped up in thinking. And so Natalie's path, actually, she's Taurus rising. So Taurus is much more grounded. Taurus needs to have like its beautiful space, right? It needs to have its things. If she has that and she feels safe, then there'll be less of that chatter.
Good.
But yeah, it's not easy when we're talking really here about like intimate relationships and using the star signs to kind of navigate that. If you have moon signs that complement one another and you have other aspects in your chart that complement one another, it's going to be easier because you kind of get what one another means. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's resonating a lot. I asked, there's Leo in me. There's Leo in my daughter. Her birthday is August 15th. And so when we're talking about relationships, it's so great to have understanding of ourselves and others.
Absolutely. When you said about your daughter, it makes me think of my daughter. So my daughter has a Cancer moon.
I love her already.
She has Sagittarius rising and she's an Aries sun. So I'm kind of watching with interest because now she's 14. Those aspects are coming more into place. So it's going to be interesting watching all of that fire. I don't know how it will display itself. But as a Cancer baby, the great thing about me having a Scorpio moon is that I can understand her sensitivity, because I grew up as a very sensitive child. I was really, well, what everyone else would call overly emotional. I was like the crybaby. I could feel everything. I was overwhelmed a lot. I didn't do well with anyone who had a lot of fire energy, who was angry, would freak me out. You know, I was like, I had to keep myself to myself. You know, I'd be in my room with my music because that helped me to release emotion. That was my way to connect with it. You know, a little bit like the Little Mermaids. I always think like, you know, this kind of desire to be in the world, but not really being able to be in it. So I could see she was almost exactly the same. Not totally, a little bit more moody, right? But that thing helped me to really to know her, you know. So maybe with your daughter, it'd be a good idea to look at her chart. I can look at it later and then just see what's navigating there emotionally. And maybe also especially with an Aquarius rising, because I guess you guys are close, but maybe because of that Aquarius rising, maybe sometimes you might look like you're not really emotional. That's what I want to say. I don't know how well you connect emotionally with her, but Aquarius rising just has a little bit of an issue with being able to actually show that, you know.
The challenge and the struggle with vulnerability resonates with me a lot. And you know, she's a peacemaker on the Enneagram. So she likes, wants to avoid conflict in certain ways and wants to keep the peace in the room in a motherly kind of way. You know, she's a great human.
She sounds
very
like a Libra.
She's very conscious. Yeah. So let's close this out because I've just got a few more minutes before I head off to jujitsu today. Let's close it out with like some closing thoughts on how the Enneagram and astrology parallel, because I've heard a lot of parallels so far in my own chart and my own Enneagram type. So as you learn more about your 2 wing 3 with a 1-to-1 connection as a subtype, how does that parallel to your own astrological chart?
So what I see is that if we look at the moon sign as the inner child and the feminine, the rising sign is your kind of, let's say, your ego, helping you to become more of your sun sign, right? Heading, let's say, into the masculine, right? So learning how to navigate all of that, I can see that in myself. Like my 2 being the helper is absolutely like my inner child was like that. Like I think I told you last time.
Look at me, I'm helping. Yeah.
In order to be validated and approved, because that was the only way I felt I could get it. So at school, in my first year at school, on my report card, it actually said that I went around the class trying to help the people who needed help. You know, I was 5 years old. So that's like, you know, ingrained in me. But the 3, I really see that as really embracing more of the Capricorn sun that I have, the part of me that I obviously am destined to become more of, but I just could not relate to that for so many years. I did not, you know, I had little reflections of it. Like I wanted to go and learn to sing at college and people were like, you're too shy. You're not confident enough. Like, why are you doing that? Like, and I could feel this thing inside of me. And the other part of me was like, no, like, don't do that. It's too scary. But I could feel that thing. And so I followed it. And it took a long time. But now I have that 3 wing that's come in, which I see as more of my Capricorn self, you know, and the Aries rising that I have, which is helping me to do that. Because it's like Aries wants to go ahead. It doesn't want to just wallow in the waters, you know, like my Scorpio moon. It wants to move. It's like, come on, let's go. Let's move forward. So I would definitely say there's a huge correlation there I can see.
Well, very well said. Yeah, that parallels very, very well for those personality types and your astrology.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Me and Dave could talk about this all day, I think. We just go on and on.
Yeah, all we need from every listener is their Enneagram type, their wing, their subtype, and then their birth date, year, and time, right? And then we'll just
exactly. We'll have to create something because it's we could do that.
Yeah, do you want to do a workshop together?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be super interesting. If anyone's interested in that, please let us know. Because I think that'd be super fun. Because it makes it just. I love looking at people. That's the Scorpio moon. I love looking at your stuff. Even when you don't want to look at your stuff, I'll hold your hand and I'll go in there, in amongst all of your shit, and I'll shine up the gold that's in there. I don't care. I'm all for that.
Right.
You know? So yeah.
And then and me over here as the challenger is like, oh, you want to hide from that? Oh no, we're gonna take a look at that. And I'm gonna ask you challenging questions along the way to get you to think and feel and to take a look inward at yourself in the mirror, because that's our true path to growth, is looking inward. All of the answers are here.
Yeah, so that is the perfect combination of Leo and Aquarius. Like that was perfect. You know?
I'm gonna raise both hands above my head and own it, and challenge others to take a step forward and to take a step into the shit, because that is where we find our growth and our path to greatness and our true authentic selves.
True. Yeah, I love it. Thank you for this conversation, Dave. It's been super cool. Belma's already saying she's interested. So,
amazing. Let's set it up. I think that we've got something really creative and really innovative here, and really informative too, to help people understand themselves better, so that they can relate to better to other people and help each other feel understood.
Absolutely. and it's
Let's
fun,
do it.
So let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
Okay, amazing. Cool. All right, I'll let you go back to jiu-jitsu because I don't want you to miss out on your session. So
Right.
amazing,
The challenger
guys.
in me.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Bye, Insta guys.
Thank you so very much for tuning in to today's episode with Gail Evans. I hope you had a lot of fun, as I did, taping this live event with her via Instagram and Facebook Live. If you're looking for a little bit more fun and a little bit more self-awareness through your astrology chart and the Enneagram personality system, join us for that free webinar. We're going to be hosting that here pretty soon. Sign up for more details in the link below. If you're looking for a little bit more support right now in your relationships, whether that be a family member, a friend, or a romantic relationship, join us in one of our private virtual group coaching sessions, free for a week. We're going to dig into self-awareness through the Enneagram, attachment theory, and understanding how leadership comes into your relationship. So join us free for 1 week by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next week, this is Dave Glaser in Denver, Colorado, wishing you health and happiness wherever you're at in the world.